Good Saturday morning, everybody. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our weekly hurricane season discussion. Had a little bit of a typo here with factors, but we're talking about hurricane season this week, as we do with every single week. Glad to have you along. Let's get started right away. First off, with the days till June 1st, we're starting off now 42 days till June 1st. So, in just a few days, we'll be under 40 days. And before you know it, we'll be just near 30 days till the season, only 1 month left. Even less at this point, less than a month and a half left till the season. Just really goes to show just how quickly time is going by, and before you know it, hurricane season will be on our doorstep. I mean, it already is, basically. Let's take a look, though, now at the current sea surface temperature anomalies by the NOAA Coral Reef Watch. Updated yesterday, as it always is. It's usually updated a day behind, but I guess it's better than before when we would have to wait only 2 times a week with the NOAA NESDIS chart. That's going really all the way back, though, to 2020. But now we at least we have daily updated maps. And the Atlantic, as we see, still remains warm. Very interesting that we see these warm spots beginning to show up near the eastern Atlantic, just off the western coast of Africa. This area has kind of cooled down, and so is the MDR as a whole, and I'll show you in just a moment. But the MDR has really taken a hit over the last few weeks, over the last few days specifically, in terms of sea surface temperature anomalies, though. But I'm going to show you why that is not a concern. Plus, I mean, the fact, even though the MDR has kind of cooled down, it's still April, and we see fluctuations in the SSTs, and it's not like we're starting to see a bunch of these colder anomalies, like for here, or even along the equatorial region in the Pacific, and this is actually something else to talk about in and of itself. But it's not like we're seeing these colder anomalies beginning to show up in the MDR, and as long as that doesn't happen, I mean, just look at the MDR already. It's very warm, and it'll probably remain that way from now till the hurricane season. But as I mentioned, there are these colder spots beginning to develop, especially right off the coast of South America and beginning to stretch into the equatorial region. Now, this is associated with the very much anticipated development of La Nina conditions that were expected. And I'll show you here. The Nino 3.4 region has actually warmed up over the last few weeks, or the last few days in the very least. But just take a look at that from the beginning of the year, basically, even from the beginning of February, and notice just how warm we were. In the Nino 3.4, we were stretching 1.8, even almost 1.9 Celsius on average in the Nino 3.4. So really strong El Nino territory. Now we only dipped down to below 1 Celsius, or at least that was last week. And only just the last few days, we've kind of had a small rebound in sea surface temperature anomalies, but I'm pretty sure over the next week or so that'll probably begin to take a hit as well. And then just showing the MDR really quickly. Yes, the MDR has taken a huge hit, but I want to show you why this is not a concern. For one, well, it did take a huge hit, but now we're starting to see it recover a little bit. But most importantly, look back at here. Just before February, the MDR also had another very big hit to its sea surface temperature anomalies. It went down almost to right below the 1 Celsius line. This time we actually did it. But look at what happened after that. The MDR rebounded, and it still remained very warm for the months leading up to, all the way up till April, before it took its hit that we see right now. So the bottom line is yes, while we see the MDR kind of tanking in sea surface temperature anomalies right now, I wouldn't bank too much into it. I wouldn't lose sleep over it. I wouldn't go crazy about it, because in a few days, just watch, the MDR will rebound, and we'll probably see these anomalies skyrocket once again. Plus the fact that we're still remaining right near the 1 Celsius line on average throughout the entirety of the MDR, not just the eastern part, but from the Caribbean all the way out to the west coast of Africa. We are still averaging nearly a degree Celsius above normal, and we still have that in late April. about to be made. So it's something to keep in mind, and it's something that I wouldn't pay too much attention to. And plus, Alex Borhem, he actually mentioned this earlier this week on Wednesday, but I think it still applies. Actually, no, not Wednesday, Thursday, since Thursday was the 18th. Kind of got my days mixed up a little bit. But Alex Borhem mentioned that after stronger trade winds, which is why we saw the sea surface temperature anomalies tank, it appears that a real negative NAO is on the way, pushing the ridge north and allowing for a few cutoff lows to weaken its southern extent. And he mentions very high SSTs in that area, probably helping this as well. Probably referring to how warm the sea surface temperature anomalies are, which is helping lower the pressures along the surface. But the main idea of what he is mentioning, we'll probably see the MDR continue to warm up, and all of the cooling that we've had over the last few weeks or few days in the very least, that'll probably be halted, and we'll probably see that reverse. So basically going into the point that even though we're seeing cooling now, that probably will not last as we head into the next few weeks, and we'll probably see it reverse. And that is clearly mentioned. He brings up the zonal wind anomaly map. Just really quickly, a bottom line: blue represents stronger trades, and the reds represent westerly winds. And if we take a look at the Atlantic, which is right here, and look at where we are with these zonal wind anomalies, yes, we do see red. So that means we will see westerly winds, and we'll probably see warming resume in the Atlantic. So really wouldn't buy too much into the cooling that we see right now. Plus, and I think this is an even bigger factor, Brian McNulty, some guy that we mentioned many times before here. He has some really good tweets, especially when it comes to anomalous energy and ocean heat content in the Atlantic. He mentions this time lots of anomalous energy still in the MDR, ocean heat content, by the way, that's what it is. And he still mentions it's crazy out there. And he mentions as well those sea surface temperature anomalies are more than skin deep. And he mentions here, this is the ocean heat content. So basically, what ocean heat content is the amount of energy there is within the ocean, not just the sea surface temperature anomalies at the surface. And that honestly plays a much bigger factor as well into the development of storms because, yes, the sea surface temperatures along the surface matter, especially when it comes to rapid intensification. But in terms of sustaining those storms and sustaining not only one, but even multiple strong storms over the same area, it is really important to have very high levels of upper ocean heat content. And we're still at record-breaking levels, at least with the chart that he showed us. This is April 18th. We're still at record-breaking levels, still trailing far ahead of all the other years, basically on record. So basically goes to show, even if the MDR, and there's even tweets about this too, going back weeks before, even if the MDR is cooling, even if we have a colder, even if we stopped with this record warming levels of the MDR that we're seeing, that's still barely going to take us to normal, and we'll still be within the top 5 in terms of MDR SSTs, and clearly that still remains to be the case, especially with upper ocean heat content. Shifting back to ENSO though, because things did actually get pretty interesting this week. El Nino, at least by the Climate Prediction Center, they have, as of their latest issue from April 11th, they have ENSO alert status at El Nino advisory, and they show a La Nina watch, and I think we showed this last week, maybe not, but here, let me see if I could try to find the figure. This is it. The official NOAA CPC probabilities, kind of just going into the idea, once again, La Nina is expected by the time we get to the peak season. Look at this, August, September, October, an 80% chance, basically right on for La Nina by the time we get to the peak. And I want to show you the SOI dashboard really quickly, kind of just playing into the idea that we are no longer in El Nino. I mean, just look at this SOI, definitely not below -6, and we all talked about before the SOI index that we usually look for an El Nino is a -7. Yes, we've seen the SOI kind of tank over the last I guess, few weeks, maybe some stronger westerly winds have been seen over the equatorial Pacific, but we're not going back to the El Nino atmosphere. And because of this, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology this past week declared that they think Enzo is now neutral. They actually declared that El Nino is over in the Pacific. Obviously, the CPC still says that El Nino is still ongoing, but the Australian Bureau of Meteorology now says the El Nino Southern Oscillation is neutral, and they expect these conditions to at least last until July of 2024. So one of the agencies, and I know that the Bureau of Meteorology out of Australia, they tend to have a little different um, criteria when it comes to measuring Enzo. Their criteria is a little different, but bottom line, this just kind of goes towards the idea that we're slowly beginning to shift away from El Nino, and probably over the next coming months will, of course, be heading to La Nina. And I really did want to mention as well more predictions that have released this week. First of all, North Carolina State University. This is just kind of going over all the predictions. Of course, we have La Nina incoming, and all the predictions have basically been reflecting that since Colorado State University. They released 23 name storms. We all know that. But this past week, too, we've seen North Carolina State University come out, also up to 20 name storms as well. Although a lot of people say that they did actually go on a little bit on the lower end of the scale when it came to their predictions. But the Weather Channel, this is what this is, the weather company, also came out this past week, 24 name storms, basically right on target with what Colorado State University has said, and basically every other forecasting agency that has released so far, they've all gone with the same prediction, basically, and that is 20 name storms at least. And I don't think, at least right now, the numbers matter so much, except for the fact that the main idea is that all of these agencies are on board with showing a really active hurricane season. There's really no other way to put it, but they all show and all agree on the fact that this season will be really active, and it just plays into everything we've seen so far, and it all ties together. We have a really warm Atlantic, and we have this El Nino, which is on its way out, and in a few weeks we'll be in La Nina, and all these forecasting agencies, they're seeing that, and it's being reflected in all their forecasts. So since we're now at the time we see all these forecasts, though, what about what is going on right now? And this is something that I'm going to show a lot more. Kind of was a little bit of a messy transition, but um, just going to bring it to you anyway. Since we're now at the time that we're seeing all these forecasts come out, so obviously that means hurricane season is on its way here, obviously. We basically only have a month left till the season. So, gonna start bringing up these maps. If you remember these maps by the forgot it, but it's from the University of Wisconsin website. They have a lot of good things, and we actually brought up their website a few times whenever we would show, systems that are happening globally, especially in the southern hemisphere. They do have these relative vorticity maps that they have, and they even have wind shear too, but kind of just showing what's going on in the Atlantic right now. Nothing much, especially over in the MDR, obviously, since it's only April. But we're going to look at these maps a lot more often now since we're heading closer to the season, and watch. The main thing I want you to watch is over the next few weeks how we see very little vorticity. So because this is what this map represents, is vorticity in the atmosphere. Obviously, not a lot of vorticity in the MDR right now, but the main thing I want you to watch is over the next few weeks just how much we go from very lackluster in terms of vorticity in the MDR to when we're going to start seeing a whole bunch of these greens begin to pop up, and that's when we'll start seeing our tropical waves, and obviously very soon that's when we'll also see basically the signs that the hurricane season is right upon us, and it is starting. So watch over the next few weeks how we go from inactive to the MDR beginning to light up with a bunch of these greens and even some of these yellows too. Once we start getting tropical wave action, which will probably be in a very short period of time. And also with wind shear too. They also have wind shear maps, and I like to look at this often as well, especially when we have activity ongoing. And obviously, you could see a whole bunch of reds right now, meaning wind shear is very unfavorable throughout the tropics. It is only April once again, but watch over the next few weeks that we start seeing all these reds go away. And before you know it, we'll start seeing these greens and yellows, even some yellows, but especially these greens begin to pop up, especially in the deep tropics. And that's when we'll start to see things become more favorable for things to develop in the Atlantic, obviously, as we get towards hurricane season. And since we're getting towards hurricane season as well, I thought I'd like to put out my predictions. And I said I was going to do it this past week on Wednesday, but stuff came out, safe stuff came up, I had lots of stuff to do, and also family events to attend. So I wasn't able to do it. But I'm going to release April 22nd. So this coming Monday, I'm going to release my hurricane season predictions. More or less, yes, predictions in terms of I'm going to give my own numbers to the season, and they might not be surprising, especially given the predictions that we've seen so far. But this is more or less just my own thoughts about the season. I'm not trying to be, one of those people that I'm not trying to be like, oh, here I am. My predictions are important, and I'm not trying to be someone, that's trying to seem like somebody that's big. I'm just trying to give my own opinion on the hurricane season, and that's what I'm going to do coming Monday. I'm going to give my own thoughts of what to expect, my own in-depth thoughts of what to expect specifically, and also, of course, my own hurricane season prediction numbers. But I'm going to tell you right now, they probably won't be too surprising, and you'll probably see it coming. I mean, they'll probably be in line with what everybody else is saying. But yeah, that's coming Monday. Stay tuned for it. If you subscribe, turn on the notification bell if you haven't. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And also, obviously, turn on the notification bell as well so you can get the notification for when I upload it as soon as I do. But until then, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Not a lot to go over, at least with the tropics. Obviously, it's only April 20th. But as I did mention at the beginning, and I mentioned probably throughout the video 1,000 times, time is going by quickly, and before you know it, hurricane season will be right on our doorstep and will be beginning in just a few short weeks. It is April 20th, and before you know it, we'll be at May 15th. And the Eastern Pacific season now is starting within less than a month. So once we get to that, we're going to start dropping these off-season videos, and we're going to start going to videos on probably a more daily basis rather than just doing them once a week. So that's coming up soon. And then obviously we'll have other predictions as well. Hurricane week is also coming up, and I'll probably do a video on that too. And I'll probably go over it on Monday too when I do my predictions video. But the bottom line is hurricane season is really on our doorstep, and before you know it, we'll be in the midst of whatever the season throws at us. Until then, stay safe, peace, love, and kindness to all, and we will talk again very soon.